Hey guys, I'm the Comics Kid 2099, and a little while back, a couple of weeks ago, I did a review of the George Pérez Fantastic Four Visionaries Volume 1. Well, now I'm here doing the review for Volume 2, that is the George Pérez Visionaries. And now I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about what I thought about this volume that is collecting the rest of the Fantastic Four stuff that George Pérez had a hand in. Now, as I said in my review of Volume 1, George Pérez was just an artist on these. He really didn't have a whole lot to do with the story. So, like in Volume 1, where he would draw 3 or 4 issues and then they would skip like 10 issues that he didn't draw, they do kind of sort of the same thing here. It's not quite as jarring, but then in a little way it still is fairly jarring. So they collected Fantastic Four 187 through 188, 191 through 192, Annual 14 and 15, Marvel 2 and 1 issue 60, and then a short backup story from Adventures of the Thing issue 3. And in the previous book, like I said, they would skip like 10 issues at a time that George Pérez wasn't drawing. Here, as you just noticed when I was reading what's collected here, they didn't skip quite as much, but it's still pretty jarring on a story level. I'm going to go ahead and spoil a little bit of the story here, so if you don't like any spoilers, go ahead and just turn off the video right now, and as long as my thumb is up in this video, I am talking spoilers. So here we go. Mr. Fantastic, in the previous volume, he lost his stretching abilities, and they never did explain in that previous volume how he lost his abilities. They did show him lose his abilities in one of the issues, but then I think they skipped over the issue where they actually explained how that happened. And then in this volume, he still does not have his stretching abilities, and he realizes that he's basically useless to the Fantastic Four. Now, it's arguable of whether or not he actually is useless to the team. Personally, I think that his brain, he's still a very smart person. He's one of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe, so technically, he wasn't really useless to the team. He could have still used his super smarts to help the team in various ways, but he didn't see it that way, so he quit the team. And then Sue Richards is like, well, if my husband quits, then so do I. And then Johnny and Ben, they're basically saying, well, we can't be the Fantastic Two, and nobody else can join the team, which I thought was a little ridiculous. There's plenty of people that could have joined the team. Johnny mentions a few of them and says that they all have duties elsewhere, which I don't think they quite explored that angle quite enough. I don't think that they could have called, say, Luke Cage, and they could have said, hey, do you want to join the Fantastic Four? And he might have said, no, I don't. They could have done something like that before these guys all decided, well, we have to disband the team because Reed and Sue aren't going to be part of the team anymore. There's been several other times where Reed and Sue were not part of the team, or someone else was not part of the team, and they just replaced them with someone else fairly easily. And it seems like this time they didn't try quite hard enough to keep the team together. But throughout this book, there's this ongoing threat of the Fantastic Four are going to disband and they're not going to be around anymore. Obviously, they eventually get back together, but if you're reading this for the story, you don't ever get to see how they get back together. And I'm not sure if there's a trade paperback that actually collects the story that shows them getting back together, but you don't get to see that here. So that's kind of still sort of jarring, but at the same time, I guess spoilers are over. So that's still kind of jarring, but it's not quite as bad as Volume 1. Volume 1, I feel like, skips more chunks of story than this does, but this still ends on a pretty huge cliffhanger that you know it is going to be resolved. You just don't know how it's going to be resolved. Other than that, I would say the Pérez art here is pretty good. It's about on par with his art in Volume 1, but I still don't feel like it quite matches up with what he was doing in the New Teen Titans just a year or so later. I think Annual 15, which is collected here, was in 1980, and that's when he started the New Teen Titans. So I will be reading the first 8 or so issues of the New Teen Titans eventually later this year, because later on in September, DC Comics is putting out a trade paperback collecting the first 8 issues and the 16 or so pages in DC Comics Presents issue 26 that is also the introduction of the team. So I will be reading that, and maybe I'll kind of get a good idea of what I mean by the art in that series being a lot better than the art here. Maybe it's just that I have a fondness for that series and it's been so long since I've read any of those issues and I'm just talking out of my butt. I really don't know. But it seems to me that the art here doesn't quite match up to the art in the New Teen Titans. So I guess I'll see what I'm talking about whenever I read the first 8 or so issues of the New Teen Titans run that George Pérez was part of. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot to say here. This does see the return of the Salem 7, who were first appeared. They were first introduced in Volume 1 of the George Pérez Visionaries, and honestly, I don't really care for that team a whole lot. I know a long time back I did a video talking about what I would want to do if I was doing a Fantastic Four movie, and I said that you could use the Salem 7. Really, I was just meaning, I mentioned the Salem 7 by name, but I was meaning just use some magical type characters. It didn't really necessarily matter which magical type characters, but since I've read some stories with the Salem 7, I've realized that those guys really don't have a whole lot of personality. They're mainly just there for their visuals. You know, one of them kind of looks like a merman, one of them kind of looks like a lion character. They don't have personalities distinct unto themselves. They're just there because it's 7 characters with magic type abilities. And also, the way that the Salem 7 are brought back into this series in this particular story doesn't really make any sense at all. When we last saw the Salem 7, and in fact all of New Salem, where Agatha Harkness is from, that entire little village just disappeared because those people did not have any desire to mix and mingle with the rest of society. And then in this issue, Agatha Harkness says, "Hey, do you guys want to come with me and visit New Salem?" And they're all like, "Sure." And I was thinking, wait a minute, I didn't think the people of New Salem wanted anything to do with the rest of the outside world, even the Fantastic Four. And then when they visit there, everyone in New Salem is like, "Hey, it's the Fantastic Four, welcome guys, you're welcome here." And that didn't really fit with the way that they were portrayed in Volume 1 of the George Pérez Visionaries. But other than that, these stories are pretty decent. They're average. They're not really awful, but they're not really wonderful either. They're just kind of there in the middle. I'm not the world's biggest Fantastic Four fan. I think that some stories are better than others, but really, like I mentioned in my review of the Volume 1 George Pérez Visionaries, the Fantastic Four are kind of permanently stuck in a rut where they can never really be allowed to change and grow as characters. And so I feel like when you read a Fantastic Four story, you've read one, you've read them all, I kind of feel like that's the way it is. That may be a little bit harsh. Maybe I just need to do a video kind of explicitly explaining what I mean by that in the future. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, I don't know. But that's about all I have to say about the George Pérez Visionaries Volume 2. So I hope that you guys liked this video. I hope that it was able to kind of let you know what is in store for you if you buy this book. And if you did like this video, I hope that you will like, share, comment, and subscribe. And that's about all that I have to say. So I will see you guys tomorrow with another review. Until then, I will see you guys later. Have a great day.